Well, hey guys, welcome back to Crossing the Line. Thanks a lot for being here. I hope this different kind of podcast is truly helpful to you. That's my goal. Today we're going to talk about competent camels. You know, those introverted, detail-driven people in our lives. And you remember, we talked about in previous episodes, we always talked about the reason it's important, if you're not a camel, to learn this is so that you can blink, so that you can think about who those around you, who they are, and learn to speak their language. That's what blinking is. You think somebody by the way they talk or their nonverbal behavior, you think, well, they may be a camel or they may be a monkey. Well, you've got to understand those personalities so that you can speak their language, because that's what leadership is all about, isn't it? That's what relationship is all about. It's learning to speak the language of another. So that's why we're doing this, to help you as you blink and as you connect with those in your life who are important on a personal level or a professional level. I want to remind us of two myths, right? The first myth is that we believe everybody shares the same value view that we do. In other words, if what we think is important, surely everybody else thinks that's important as well, and they behave that way, and that's just a myth. And the reason we know that is, if you think about those camels, you remember what is important. If you've been a part of our Make a Difference concepts, those camels are really detail-driven in efficiency and being on time, all those things, organization and structure. That's really important to the camel, being competent. So if I'm a camel leader and I'm having a meeting and I call a meeting for 9 o'clock, I expect you to be there at least by 10 till, maybe 5 till. If it's 5 till, you're late. Certainly at 9 o'clock, you're late. And you can kind of think through, what am I going to do when my monkey friend comes in and he's hanging out and he comes rolling through about, I don't know, 9:10, 9:15, and he's telling jokes and he's laughing and he's got to spend a few minutes talking before we get to the meeting. He's already blown up my agenda, because I have a very detailed listed agenda as a camel of where we're supposed to go. And so it truly, truly frustrates me. And I decide that he is not competent. He is not worthy of being on this team. And then that line comes in, she's there on time, all right, but she's, you know what, she can't hear the details. I start down my agenda, 1A, 1A.1, 1A.2, and I only have 32 things to get through, that's all. And she can't take it, he can't take it, the lion, and they can't take it, and they begin to push the agenda, hurry up, and what are you trying to say? Would you, for the love, get out of the weeds? And they're talking so much, and they're over-talking me, and they're dominating my meeting, so I just invalidate them. I don't want them on my team. I can't get anything done. They have no appreciation for the detail, for the specifics. I have this meeting, and I have assignments made, and my turtle is on my team, and I look over there and I ask the turtle about the assignments that he was supposed to bring, and he says, well, I'm thinking about that and I'm processing on it. And I said, well, wait, I sent you that last week. You've had plenty of time to think about it. Here's the timeline. You're not following my timeline. You're not. And he just kind of looks at me and says, well, I'll get to it. I've got a lot going on. And his lack of ability to stay on a timeline, to stay on my schedule, is not working. It's just not going to work. So he's off. And before I know it, as a camel, I've invalidated 3/4 of the population, 3/4 of the personality types. And I'm only going to lead those who are just like me. That's not leadership, is it? Remember, what is that? Yeah, dictatorship. That's exactly right. That's not leading well. So I have to learn to speak the language of these other personalities so that I can be an effective leader, so that I can be effective in a relationship with that person and connect with that person based on where they are. Well, that's the first myth. The second myth is that we believe that, or tend to believe, that everyone views us the same way we view ourselves, right? Surely, if I'm a camel, surely everyone views being efficient and being on time and having our details and being structured and organized and processing. And no, they don't. And I have to understand very, very quickly that while I view these things, the monkey sees that as, the monkey sees that as just being anal. The monkey sees that as just, you're just too structured. You're just no fun. You're not, how in the world can you accomplish anything? Because all you ever do is you're just so critical and negative. And the monkey sees this as very different than what I see. What I call being detail-driven and specific, the monkey says, no, you're really anal and no fun and very critical. What I see as being, taking care of the details, taking care of the things that matter. The lion sees as being in the weeds. All you ever are is in the weeds. You can't get out of the weeds. How do you just spin on nothing and it doesn't matter? What I see is following a timeline and knowing how long it's going to take and trying hard to stick to that timeline. That turtle sees as being rigid and unbendable and unflexible and difficult. Wow. My perception of myself is very different than how others view me. And that's why it's important that we understand these camels. That's why it's important to learn about the camel's strengths and the weaknesses. As a camel, if you're a camel, it's important so that you can be self-aware of these are my strengths, but these are my weaknesses, and other people see them. If we lead or love camels, it's important so that we can understand how to connect and communicate with them based on their strengths and their weaknesses. So it's really important so we can speak their language. You better have camels on your team. Camels are what I call the go-to people. They're very logical. They live in a black and white world. There's very little gray in the camel mind. It's either right or wrong, black or white. They're very logical. They really kind of love that process of processing things out. Of course, dotting their I's and crossing their T's because they believe and know that's where the quality really lies. It's in the details. Quality and is nothing more important than a camel than being competent, than having quality in everything they do. And they want a job worth doing is a job doing well. And that's their mantra. So they love that. And that's a real strength because they are our quality control people. They are the logical thought-driven people that help us to look at our options and then also to drive for that excellence, drive for that quality. There's a problem with that though, because on the weaknesses side, camels, it's the most interesting thing to me. It really is. So they're the most logical of the groups, of the personality groups. But at the same time, there's this one area that they're just not logical in at all. And I don't understand it. You see, camels have this unrealistic expectation that they place on themselves. And they confuse the E word and the P word. And the P word is perfection and the E word is excellence. And so when they think about themselves, they really strive for perfection in everything. And when they don't reach that perfection, they begin to beat themselves up. They can't settle for excellence. They can't settle for something that's not just exactly perfect. So therefore, you have to ask yourself, is that logical? Is it logical to think we can be perfect? Well, the obvious answer is no, it's not logical. But that's where they live. That's what they do. And when they don't obtain that, they begin to beat themselves up. They begin to be critical of themselves. And you know what? When I'm critical of myself, then I become critical of those around me. So then they become critical of those around them. And they begin to set expectations for those around them that just can't be met. So if you happen to live with a camel, I'm going to do you a big favor. Listen, get this. If you live with a camel, stop trying to meet their expectations because you can't. What you can do is help to set reasonable expectations and communicate that to the camel, right? We're kind of getting over here in the counseling world, aren't we? But either way, listen, if you can get in your head, I'm not going to be able to meet the expectation of the camel that I live with, but I am going to communicate what I can meet. And we're going to work together to understand that. You'll be happier, they'll be happier. Camels tend to be critical of others because they're critical of themselves. And that means that we have to watch this group because they spiral into depression and they become moody. And so we have to keep our eye on that because they can certainly spiral down because they never quite reach the perfection that they're going for. Incredibly valuable to the team, incredibly powerful in a relationship, just incredible ability to bring that excellence, to bring that logic and that quality. But sometimes when we overuse that strength, it becomes a weakness and we become overly critical and we become moody. So we have to watch them. So what do you do with camels? How do you lead them? How do you care about them? What is it they're really looking for? And remember now, they're really black and white. They're really logical. So we really got to be on our game when we're trying to validate camels. So how do you validate camels? Camels are validated by the quality of the task. By the not the task itself, no, but the quality of the task. Remember, competent camels. And the trigger word I want you to think about and remember here is specifics. And I used to not understand that. I used to just think, well, they just want specifics. It's not that they just want you to give them specifics. They want to tell you the specifics. In other words, if you have a friend who's a camel and you ask that camel, what time is it? She's going to want to tell you how the watch is made. Here's how you make a watch. Well, you start, and all you want to know is the time. But if you really want to validate, listen to how the watch is made. Listen to it. Let her tell you. You're speaking her language. So let me tell you a true story. Years ago, I'm married and we have 2 children. And years ago, my children are now adults. But my wife, who is a competent camel, had a long day. I'd had a long day. I had worked all day, and you know how it is. I came home. I was tired. Helped get the kids ready for bed. Got them in bed, and I was just ready to relax and kind of chill. And she said, "Hey, Larry, I need to talk to you." And I'm like, "Oh, really now?" She said, "Yeah, I need to talk to you." And I never will forget. I sat there at our kitchen table. And she starts telling me the story about what happened today with the children. I remember this yellow school bus being involved and all kind of things. And she was just going on and on with this dilemma that she had. And I was exhausted. Man, I was just tired. So I just sat there and I listened. I didn't have anything to say. Here I am, this guy that was supposed to be, working with people. I help people all day long in the practice and in our business. I couldn't even help my own wife. I'm thinking, wow. But I was just exhausted. So I went to bed. And the next morning, I woke up and I was feeling guilty. I'm like, man, I need to apologize to my wife for not helping her. And so I'm laying there in the bed next to her, and I said, hey, I need to talk to you. I need to tell you something. And she stopped me and she said, no, I need to tell you something. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I said, well, to myself, I'm like, well, big guy, you have this coming. You couldn't even help her in her time of stress, so just get ready for it. I said, okay, go ahead, darling. She said, you know that conversation we had last night? I said, I do. She said, best conversation we've ever had. She said, thank you so much for just listening to my details. I just needed to get that off. I just needed to talk about it. You didn't interrupt me. You listened the whole time. And I was like, no problem, mate. That's what I do for a living, right? And for years, I never told her what I was really thinking. But it taught me a valuable lesson. It's really important to validate those camels by hearing the specifics, being engaged, and allowing them to share that knowledge, those specifics with you. It's truly important not only to give specifics, but also to hear them. So I hope as you think about the camels in your life, if you're at work, take time for those details. Speak those detailed words and that detailed language so that they can be a powerful member of your team. If you have camels at home, take the time to hear the specifics. Take the time to allow them to process the details. Take the time to let them know that you know that they're competent in whatever it is that they're doing in your home. When you make the time to invest in camels like this, you're going to make a difference.